In less than 3 months, the American electorate will decide who their next president will be. With the election fast approaching, it's essential to examine where Kamala Harris and Donald Trump stand in the race for the critical 270 electoral votes. We'll begin by considering the solid states for both candidates, those states where either Harris or Trump is expected to win by at least 15 percentage points. Starting with the safe blue states, Kamala Harris is projected to carry Washington, California, Hawaii, Vermont, Massachusetts, Connecticut, Rhode Island, Maryland, the District of Columbia, and the 1st Congressional District of Maine. On the other side, Donald Trump is expected to secure Alaska, Utah, Wyoming, Idaho, Montana, North and South Dakota, nearly all of Nebraska, Kansas, Oklahoma, Missouri, Arkansas, Louisiana, Mississippi, Alabama, South Carolina, Tennessee, Kentucky, West Virginia, Indiana, and the 2nd Congressional District of Maine. With these solid states accounted for, Trump starts with a lead of 126 electoral votes, while Harris has 109. Next, we move on to the likely states, those expected to be won by either candidate with a margin of 7 to 15 points. The likely states for Kamala Harris include Oregon, where she is anticipated to win by about 12 points. This is a reduction from Biden's 16-point margin in 2020, but still a comfortable victory. Illinois is also expected to lean towards Harris by just under 15 points, along with Delaware, where Biden's narrow margin in 2020 suggests a likely but not overwhelming win for Harris. New Jersey, typically a safe blue state, is more competitive this year due to the unpopularity of Democratic figures like Bob Menendez, which could reduce Harris's margin to under 15 points. New York, with its 28 electoral votes, is another state where Harris is expected to win, but with a reduced margin. Despite Biden's 23-point victory in 2020, the unpopularity of local Democratic leaders like Governor Kathy Hochul and Mayor Eric Adams may lead to a tighter race. Colorado, a state Biden won by 13.5 points in 2020, is projected to be another likely Democratic win for Harris, though by a narrower margin of just over 7 points. For Donald Trump, the likely states include Iowa and Ohio, both of which he won in 2016 and 2020 by solid margins. These states, once considered swing states, have shifted decisively to the right and are now reliably Republican. In Texas, a state crucial to the GOP's electoral strategy, Trump is expected to win by at least 9 points, solidifying its status as a red state despite Democrats' efforts to make inroads. Florida, another critical battleground, has also shifted in Trump's favor. With 30 electoral votes, Florida is expected to go to Trump by a margin of at least 7 points, reflecting the GOP's growing dominance in the state. With all solid and likely states accounted for, Trump extends his lead to 219 electoral votes, while Harris has 191. We now turn to the lean states, where the margin of victory is expected to be between 2 and 7 percentage points. These states are more competitive, though one candidate typically has a clear advantage. The first lean state for the Harris campaign is New Mexico, which has been a reliably Democratic state in recent elections. However, the state's Hispanic electorate is shifting rightward, making the race tighter. Harris is still expected to win New Mexico, but by a weaker margin than Biden's 11-point victory in 2020. New Hampshire, with its 4 electoral votes, is another lean state for Harris. The state has been competitive in recent elections, with Clinton narrowly defeating Trump there in 2016. Biden won New Hampshire by 7 points in 2020, but Harris is likely to win by a smaller margin, around 4 to 5 points. Maine's statewide vote, which awards 2 electoral votes, also falls into the lean category. Biden won Maine by 9 points in 2020, but Harris is expected to secure it with a narrower margin. Virginia, with 13 electoral votes, has been trending Republican in recent years. Biden carried the state by a double-digit margin in 2020, but the GOP has gained ground since then, including the election of Republican Governor Glenn Youngkin. As a result, Virginia is now considered a lean Democratic state. The final lean state for Harris is Minnesota, the home state of her running mate, Tim Walz. Although Walz is an asset to the ticket, Minnesota has become more competitive, and Harris is not expected to outperform Biden's 7-point win in 2020. These lean states bring Harris's total to 225 electoral votes. Now, let's explore the lean states for Trump. North Carolina, which Trump won by just 1% in 2020, is likely to remain in the GOP column, with Trump expected to win by around 4 percentage points. Georgia, another closely watched state, barely went to Biden in 2020 by 1/4 percentage point. However, with Harris polling worse than Biden in 2020, Trump is favored to win Georgia by a lean margin. Arizona, which Biden won narrowly in 2020, is also expected to swing back to Trump. Harris's focus on the Midwest with her choice of running mate, Tim Walz, leaves her vulnerable in Sunbelt states like Arizona, where Trump is likely to win by a lean margin. Nevada, another battleground in the Sunbelt, has eluded Republicans since 2004. Trump lost the state by the same margin in both 2016 and 2020, but he is now favored to win by around 3 percentage points. Adding it to the GOP's lean states, the election's outcome will likely be decided in the 3 Rust Belt states of Wisconsin, Michigan, and Pennsylvania. These states, which were once part of the Democratic blue wall, have become critical battlegrounds in recent elections. Trump broke through the blue wall in 2016, winning all 3 states, though Biden reclaimed them in 2020. However, the margins were narrow, and Trump remains competitive in the region. Wisconsin is projected to be a lean Republican state, with Trump favored to win by a narrow margin. Michigan and Pennsylvania, where Trump has been leading in the polls for several months, are considered tilt Republican states, meaning they are expected to be decided by less than 2 percentage points. The addition of J.D. Vance from Ohio as Trump's running mate is likely to help the GOP ticket in these states, offsetting any advantage Harris might gain from having Walz on the ticket. The final state to consider is the 2nd Congressional District of Nebraska, which Biden won in 2020, but Trump carried in 2016. Redistricting has made this district more favorable for Republicans, and it is expected to tilt Republican in 2024, though it remains a toss-up. Based on the current projections, Donald Trump and J.D. Vance are on track to win the 2024 election with 313 electoral votes, while Kamala Harris and Tim Walz are expected to secure 225. If these projections hold, the Harris-Walz ticket would be the worst performing Democratic ticket since 1988.